Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington. I would like to call to order the Everett Council meeting for October 8th, 2025. For information on council meetings and how to participate, please visit everettwa.gov/citycouncil. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Bader.
Here.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Vogely.
Here.
Councilmember Fosse.
Here.
Councilmember Tui.
Here.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Here.
President Schwab.
Here. And at this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Bader to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Tui to read the land acknowledgement.
The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Stohoopshee people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. Okay, on to old business. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes for October 1st, 2025?
So moved.
Second the motion?
A motion and second's been made. Thank you. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Bader.
Abstain.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Abstain?
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, on to Mayor's comments.
Yes, good evening. First, I have a Leadership Day proclamation. I'm pleased to present a proclamation to celebrate Leadership Day in Everett. Whereas the city of Everett is continuing to grow because of individuals who are willing to lead, serve, and work together to make a difference in their community. And the city of Everett recognizes that strong, compassionate, and forward-thinking leadership is essential to building a better future for all residents. And Leadership Snohomish County has provided transformative leadership programs that foster collaboration across sectors and inspire action to meet evolving needs of Snohomish County communities over 20 years. And over 1,200 Snohomish County professionals will graduate from Leadership Snohomish County programs this year, expanding the region's network of skilled leaders and strengthening our community through civic engagement and collaboration. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Cassie Franklin, Mayor of the City of Everett, do hereby proclaim October 14th, 2025 as Leadership Day and encourage all residents to celebrate the vital role that strong, compassionate leadership plays in shaping a resilient community. And I think Kathy is here to accept the proclamation.
Good day. I'd like to.
Hey, can you please press the button on the bottom of the mic? There we go.
Hi, I would like to thank you for this proclamation, and the city of Everett was one of the first to respond when we reached out. This event is in its 11th year. We reached out to get new proclamations this year to celebrate the value of leadership and coming together. And so if any of you would like to attend on October 14th, I'd love to have you as my guest. Reach out and let me know. And thank you for demonstrating leadership and showing up in our community to support in all the ways you do.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for all you do for our community. And so the only other comment I have this evening is that I have some great news to share to help respond and support Casino Road and Westmont Hauling neighbors with the impending closure of Fred Meyer's. The city code allows for me to authorize a temporary free route in the event of an urgent situation. And so with that authority, I'm asking Everett Transit to make Route 12 a free route for all riders. Route 12 runs the length of Casino Road and connects to the Everett Mall station. At the mall, Everett Transit will offer a smaller free shuttle to bring folks from Everett Mall station to the Walmart on Everett Mall Way. Our team is working hard to assist those impacted by the Fred Meyer closure, to understand their needs and to identify barriers and open up opportunities. And I'm excited to allow everyone along Casino Road and Everett Mall the opportunity to access amenities like Walmart, but also Trader Joe's, Seven Pharmacy, and other retail options at the mall. So thank you so much to our Everett Transit team for making that happen. Really appreciate your partnership and hard work. And we will have this available for folks for 6 months. No further comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that great news. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. It's which includes written comment acknowledgement of our rules. Written comments shall be considered in the same manner as oral comments. When you submit your comments, please provide your name and city of residence to make the official record. Good evening, Angie. Do we have any public comments or any written comments tonight?
Good evening, President Schwab. We do have some written comments, which I'll read into the record regarding the buffer zone. From Liz Stenning, Deanna Valento Stem, Tom Hoban, Cindy Kyle, and Alvaro Guillen. And these were provided to council, legal, city clerk, and administration to be part of the record. And we have one person online and a few people in chambers wishing to speak. So I'll start with the individual online. And Carrie, if you could unmute and if you could turn your camera on. Okay, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, great. And so if you can state your full name, city of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay.
And you can
My
start.
my name is Carrie Reed and I live in Everett, the Lowell district. I wanted to speak in front of you guys this evening because I am high functioning autistic and I am a domestic violence victim survivor as well as sexual assault and sex trafficking. I would like to be able to set up a time with the city council, the mayor, Franklin, and Chief DeRoos, and be able to sit down and discuss ideas and ways that our community can make Everett great again as far as the rules, the way that domestic violence and the autism community are handled, some of the judicial administration, the way protection orders are handled, the way the neighbor report app or the neighbor report app is used, the way buffer zones are being used, and so on and so forth. And I have written numerous emails. I've written numerous letters. I've dropped off requests at the police department. I've dropped off requests at City Hall, and I have not gotten a response. And so I wanted to go on the record to ask each and every one of you council members, as well as Mayor Franklin and Chief DeRoos, to please meet with me to discuss some of the things that are more appropriate to discuss between us than on this forum. And I really urge you to help me out to make domestic violence victims no longer a victim, to make them a survivor and not a statistic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Angie, I assume we have our contact information.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, do we have any other
In chambers, we
in
do.
chambers? Okay, thank you.
So Annie, if you could please come to the podium. And please hit the button on the base of the mic and state your full name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Annie Lyman. I live in the Evergreen neighborhood, South Everett, off of Casino Road, Casino Connect. I'm getting to know that building. It has been great to have to use for meetings and things. So I'm getting used to South Everett, having lived in North Everett all those years. South Everett's a great place, by the way. So I'm here this evening, though, to speak about the Citizens Back Municipal Code 20, 20.12, the Snohomish River Watershed Legal Standing. There's a court date coming up, October 24th, and our group has been working real hard on how to address that. And so I came here tonight to try to get you maybe to think in terms of the municipal code is in effect and it's working, and we need your support. So I'm asking you to look over it again and read the language to see what it's really all about. And I don't see anything that is so threatening to have the city sued by master builders, probably is what's going to probably happen. But anyway, so that court date's coming up, and 56% of the vote voted for this initiative, which became a municipal code. So it is law, and it is part of the city of Everett, and you guys have a big responsibility to maintain the laws of according to the code, the way it's written, and read about it. I think I don't know who has read it all and to see what it's really all about, but it really encourages citizens to participate in helping to maintain the Snohomish River watershed. So I know that another committee member is going to be speaking about the derelict vessels that are there now. So with the EPA getting cut drastically by our current administration, and there's just no one to be what we always kind of relied on to be the watchdog. It's up to us. It's up to this city. And you are the governing body. And I appreciate the mayor talking with me about it the other night. But I still want to go forward with, I think there is lots of legal standing. That it is a good law. It's written well. And I think it can save. And the idea that there's a possible lawsuit out there somewhere waiting to strike, it's a mysterious thing and it's mystical. And how can it be really? So until that happens, I say don't bank on that. Don't be scared. You know, I think fear of lawsuit is a huge thing. And we see it nationally. We see it. And those people who stand up, get brave, say, no, the law is the law. This is what it is. I think our judicial system will back that too. So anyway, thank you for letting me speak tonight. And I know that we have another speaker too. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly, if you could please come to the podium. And please state your full name and city residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Push the green button. Oh, it's good, actually. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for your attention today. Holly James, 1220 Colby, Everett, Washington. I'm also here in support of 20.12. I'm on the board of Standing for Washington, which is the small 3-person group that got the initiative going last summer and got it passed. Since it passed, we haven't been interested in the business of the Master Builders Association, nor have we sued anybody else. We have been interested in the actual state of the river. We've done a lot of digging about derelict vessels. And so there's one in particular I wanted to just tell you about, and hopefully it'll get you excited about the work we've been doing. The one in particular I wanted to bring your attention to is called the Pacific Express. It's a blue hull with snowpack written on the side of it. It's a 187-foot disaster waiting to happen, sitting north of the trestle on the west side of the bridge. For 8 years, it's been stuck there with no plan of being used or moved. Its Coast Guard registration expired in July, and it's a retired fishing vessel, but it's listed as recreational by Felix Vera, a boat owner who has a history of buying boats and attempting to tow them to Mexico to be sold for scrap. One says he's already had experience doing this. In 2018, Mr. Vera had a boat called the American Challenger that got stuck in Port Townsend, then stuck in Port Angeles, finally got a towboat driver with no insurance of his own and no insurance on the towboat to get it to Mexico. It got stuck on the rocks in Monterey Bay, California, in a marine sanctuary in March of 2021. The Coast Guard was stuck with a $1.3 million bill of cleaning it up. The Challenger had broken free from the towboat in bad weather and got stuck on the rocks, and the boat is still there today because they can't get it off. The Coast Guard did sue Mr. Vero and the towboat driver. Again, neither was insured to recoup the cost. Felix Vera is the owner of this Pacific Express that's stuck here in Everett since 2012. DNR began photographing it and requesting cleanup, which was mildly successful. Bilges have been cleaned and oil drums removed from the deck in 2018. However, Mr. Vera has since filed bankruptcy and owes dock fees over $200,000. Dock management is currently stuck with this wreck, absorbing the cost on its own expense. Standing for Washington has been looking for ways to support this business, which is stuck with this liability. They have real concern that it may break free, which could be disastrous for nearby bridges and shoreline. Searching for solutions such as this is the work we are doing on behalf of the rights of the Snohomish to date. Our court date again is October 24th, and I hope Municipal Code 2012 is seen by the judge clearly and held on the merit of giving standing in court, not clouded by speculation and renamed a lawsuit creator. It's rather ironic that the Master Builders is arguing the code will create lawsuits at the same time they're suing us. Again, I'm encouraging you to educate yourself on the code. The arguments filed are posted on the website standingforwashington.org and part of the public record now. Thank you.
Thank you. And William, if you could please come to the podium. And please state your full name and city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
William Parent. I'm looking for affordable housing, jumping between jobs that, but that's a long story. You know what, 21 of you guys in here? This is the favorite TV show there is, dude. Out of all of them, I watch every Wednesday, but I was a little concerned about the grocery store closures, because I don't know. I've been the Everett PD ones who told me how to look up the law. You just type RCW, but I haven't figured out on the federal part. But I only got 3 minutes here. Yeah, you guys have such wonderful roads. I so want to ask for the 80,000-pound tanks. For the demos. Maybe we can do the trail, do the truck route, but it says Congress can convene an emergency or special session, but this is rare. The president has the constitutional power to call both houses in extraordinary sessions to address urgent matters. Under limited and specific circumstances, the military can be called upon to protect grocery stores, most often in the form of the National Guard. However, federal, because that's the last resort. But however, federal law and established practice severely restricts using the active military for domestic law enforcement, including guarding civilian properties like stores or military involvement in typical or measures of last resort, primarily to maintain order and facilitate supply chains during the declared emergency. The Posse Act of 1878 significantly limits federal government's ability to use active military for domestic law enforcement. But there's emergency exceptions. While there are some exceptions for federal troops in case of large scale, I'm talking 6 going down to California is coming. Unexpected civil disturbances. These are typically only invoked when authorized by Congress or the Constitution. The military's primary response is in the context is to protect federal property and functions, not local businesses. In most situations, the protection of grocery stores is handled by local police and store security, and military intervention is an extreme measure reserved for severe large-scale emergencies where local and state resources have been overwhelmed. Generally, the military's role is not to act as a permanent security force for private businesses like grocery stores.
If you wouldn't mind just like closing, it'd be good.
I got one sentence left. The legal and historical presence is clear that such actions are to be used only as a last resort in extreme circumstances where civilian law enforcement is overwhelmed.
Thank you.
And that concludes our public comments.
Okay, we're moving on to council comments. We'll start off with Councilmember Bader.
Thanks, Council President. No report, no comments this week. Thanks.
Sorry, there seems to be one person wishing to speak.
Okay, is there anyone else in the audience here who'd like to speak?
You want to come up to the podium?
That was your introduction.
Please state your full name and city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. I'm Andrea Tucker, Everett, Washington. I'm here on behalf of the Council of Neighborhoods. And I just wanted to remind the public that we are having a candidate forum tomorrow evening, sponsored by the Council of Neighborhoods and hosted by the League of Women Voters, or moderated by the League of Women Voters. So I just wanted to let everybody know in case people hadn't found out, and it's at the Transit Center Warehouser Room at 6:30 tomorrow. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Oh. Okay, well,
I don't think I got my form in the appropriate place, so.
it's okay if you could just go to the mic and give your. If you would just come to the mic and give us your name and your city of residence.
My
You got
name
3
is
minutes.
Lawrence Balo, and I live here in Everett. Actually, I live down at the marina. I was here a couple of weeks ago, and essentially I am still asking the same questions. I have since then discovered that our emergency management, or Office of Emergency Management, I should say, does not regard the situation I was describing of having military and ICE on our city streets as being an emergency, because it does not fit with our comprehensive emergency plan. There's no hole to put it in. I'm hoping that this group doesn't have the same feeling that it's not their responsibility. I would still like to know, if and when this happens, what our planned response is. I think it would be very nice to know that beforehand, rather than find out in the newspaper the following day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to council comments, starting with Councilmember Bader.
Still no report or comments. Thanks.
Okay, just wanted to give you one more chance. Councilmember Ryan.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Earlier tonight, we had our Parks and Built Environment Council Committee meeting. It was a fantastic discussion. We started with revisiting the topic of addressing storefront vacancies in our downtown core. And then we have some action items that we're going to work on getting that on the books. And then the discussion expanded to talking about ways that we can address big box vacancies across the city. So some ideas were floated of potential vacancy tax, adaptive reuse incentives, land value tax, and other carrots and sticks to help with addressing situations like Fred Meyer's, but expanding that situation and applying it to a citywide approach. So more to come on that. At the meeting, we also had representatives from our Parks Department to share more about a policy for how we name our parks and small amenities at parks. And they had recently had a request from a community group to name a small park amenity, which gave them the opportunity to revisit the process. And there's opportunities for streamlining that process. So we will be getting an updated policy from them in the coming months with a suggestion on ways that they can streamline their process, which, you know, obviously we're all in favor of any streamlining we can do at the government level. We also heard from Jennifer Gregerson about work that the staff's doing to help community members down in the Casino Road area access grocery stores. And thank you, Mayor Franklin, for sharing about Route 12. That's a fantastic idea. And the discussion also kind of opened to the rest of the committee members about short-term approaches to that vacant area and also long-term visions and goals. So more to come on that for sure. I think, you know, as Councilmember Tui had mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we were all caught really off guard by the announcement of their closure. So we're working on just getting as many ducks in a row as quickly as we can to mitigate any damages. Wanted to let folks know that this upcoming Monday, Port Gardner Neighborhood Association's having their monthly meeting at the Community Resource Center at the Everett Public Schools. And then I wanted to give a heads up too for a save the date. The Pinehurst Beverly Park neighborhood on Tuesday, October 21st is going to be hosting representatives from Sound Transit, and they're going to be sharing more about the potential route connection between the Casino Road station and downtown. Oftentimes when I look at the route, that dog leg is not visible on documents, so they'll be able to give a closer look at where that route will potentially go. They have a Facebook page, and I asked people to RSVP for the event because I know it's going to be a popular one. It's at the Cascade Boys and Girls Club there by Lions Park. So please RSVP so they know how many treats to bring, how many Muddy Buddies to make. So make sure you log on there. And just also wanted to give one last friendly reminder that our boards and commissions are now accepting applications for vacant positions. So I would encourage folks to apply for that, and that closes on October 20th. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Vogely.
Hello and good evening. Thank you, Mayor, and Everett Transit for having Route 12 free for the next 6 months. I think that's an important stopgap and very thoughtful. And thank you to everybody that came and spoke this evening. Some of you are still here. I just appreciate hearing all the different ideas. William is gone, but I do appreciate hearing that idea because we need everybody's input. I don't think it was quite the right one that's going to work in this situation, but it was still an interesting topic. And then Lawrence, I believe, thank you also for bringing that bit of information. I didn't realize that about the Office of Emergency Management. So another good thing to think about. I appreciate what you all had to say, and that is all.
Thank you. Councilmember Fosse.
No questions or comments.
Councilmember Tui.
Yeah, just a couple things from the Council of Neighborhoods. In addition to their candidate forum on the 16th of October, the Monte Cristo Awards ceremony and celebration. So that's being held at Apex at 6:30 p.m., which is a Thursday evening. So it will be great to see that back and enjoy. Folks have such a great time at those awards and celebrations. And then I do have an administrative update request. And I don't know when it was, 2020 or 2021, when the county wanted to purchase that church to provide a shelter for Everett, an additional one, the one right by the Utotem restaurant, Hope Church. Okay. And it was, not deemed a good location for, I'm not sure what the reasons were, but anyway, the county then came and said that we could find our own location. And I remember we talked about Central Everett, South Everett, different locations, and haven't heard anything on what we're doing there. And I don't think anything's come back to council on that.
I'll just a brief update that is the Everett Gospel Mission is expanding their shelter capacity, and that is where the shelter beds are. The county has 4 million. Yeah, thank you. And they're working together with the Gospel Mission. So this all goes outside of the city of Everett. This is between the county and the service providers, but it all is happening within the city of Everett. And so the county is working with the Everett Gospel Mission, and they are expanding their services and buying additional property to provide shelter beds. And I will be very happy to invite members of the community development team to come forward and share what we know. And certainly we can extend an invitation to the Gospel Mission or county or other partners that are part of that work.
Okay, that's not how I understood the $4 million, but that's been a few years. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Zelenko.
Well, no report, but a quick note to elaborate on what Mrs. Tucker mentioned, the candidate forum tomorrow night. That's at Everett Station, the warehouse room, a glorious room to go spend some time in. But I also wanted to make the note, there's ample free parking right across the street there. So it's a really convenient event to go to. I would certainly encourage anybody who's interested at all to come and participate.
Okay, thank you. Do we have an administrative report?
No, I think, I know that we have talked about the 4 million Everett Gospel Mission, at least at the Health and Safety Committee. I'll find where we've talked about it and then also connect with community development folks with more information. And just wish good luck to all the candidates that get to go up on stage tomorrow night and hope that the community turns out.
Okay, thank you. How about from a report from our city attorney, David?
No report and no executive session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to our consent items. We have 7 on our agenda, 1 through 7. Do I have a motion?
Councilmember Bader, so moves.
Councilmember Ryan seconds.
Okay, motion and second's been made. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Bader,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yeah.
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, moving on to proposed action items and briefing. Item number 8, first reading, Council Bill 2509-53. Adopt an ordinance amending ordinance 3957-23, deleting the expiration provision so that the ordinance providing for service facility buffer zones continue in effect until December 31st, 2027, and add a new reporting requirement. The third and final reading will be October 22nd, 2025. Jennifer, did you have a briefing on this?
Yes, we do. I'll turn it over to Lacey Offit as she gets settled to provide this briefing.
One moment and I will take it away. I guess while that's working, I will introduce myself. Most of you know me, many of you know me, all of you know me, Lacey Offit, on behalf of the police department, part of city legal. And I have the honor of briefing you on an update to the buffer zone ordinance. I am just going to pull up the buffer zone map as a reference as we talk about this. So give me one moment. And can somebody remind me how to, what am I?
It's yeah, click on the share. Yeah, that guy. And then what do you want?
There we go. Apologies.
Okay, it's working. You got it.
In an attempt not to bore you by just looking at me, I wanted you to have something to stare at as I give my presentation. Before we begin, I also want to let council know that with me tonight, I have from community development, I have Ben Breeden here present and able and willing to answer any questions from that standpoint, as well as Kelly Rourke from the social workers department. And from police, we have Sergeant Nate Wallace, who's happy to answer any questions that may arise from the police standpoint, as well as I think the chief is still here. Yep. As well as some of our North Patrol leadership. So by way of background, the original buffer zone ordinance codified at EMC 954 passed this body in the summer of 2023. And broad brushstrokes, it permits the mayor to designate what we have titled service facility buffer zones if certain qualifying events exist around a particular location within the city within a 6-month timeframe. The ordinance lays out exactly those conditions that qualify and can be counted towards those qualifying events in order to designate the service facility buffer zone. Once designated within that area, it is unlawful to sit or lie down in the area with exceptions such as somebody having a medical condition. Requires a warning from police before any enforcement action may be taken. And it also provides that services or supplies provided to individuals within the zone cannot occur without a permit.
In addition, the original ordinance requires community development director to post maps and information on the city website and update that at least every 6 months. The map that you're looking at right now was pulled directly from the robust website that the city has developed to inform the public about the activity around buffer zones. And the original ordinance is set to sunset this December 31st, 2025. So the request today is for this body to amend the sunset clause to give us 2 more years to see how this is working for the city. So the amendment would set a new sunset clause to December 31st, 2027. In addition, the ordinance we're requesting the ordinance be amended in order to provide for routine reporting from city administration to city council. The ordinance as it is does not provide for that routine reporting. And so the recommended changes would require an annual report to city council, in addition to a report whenever a new designated service facility or designated high impact zone is created. So at least annually, if not more frequently, if there are zones created. As an update to how the last 2 years have gone in enforcing the buffer zone ordinance, there are 4, as you can see, that the mayor has designated within the city of Everett. We've got 2 service facility locations and 2 high impact locations. I'm going to use the kind of colloquial terms that we've used because I get a little turned around when we're just referencing block numbers. So we've got 2624 Rockefeller, which is the UCC church. We've got Andy's Place at 3301 Lombard. The 2 high impact locations are the Fred Meyer at 8530 Evergreen Way, and the newest service facility buffer zone is, high impact location is the Imagine Children's Museum at 1502 Wall Street. So I'll use those names to reference them, not to denigrate or to elevate any of those locations, just because that's how we've been referencing them. So has the buffer zone ordinance been effective and efficient? I'm sure that's the question that most people will ask if they think back on the last 2 years. I'm going to address this from 4 different standpoints. First, from city administration standpoint, then from the police department standpoint, from the prosecutor's office standpoint, and finally from the community standpoint, at least what's been reported to us. So from the city administration standpoint, many of you are aware or may have listened in or were there when Ben Breeden briefed the Safe Communities Committee in September on the buffer zones. And he didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and quote him because I think that he did a wonderful job of summarizing a little piece of the buffer zones. He said, good intentions only go so far. We have to couple that with good implementation. And so the question is this good implementation? I would suggest to you all that we have done a very good job of implementing the buffer zones as imagined. As I stated, the providing of goods and services within the buffer zones is done by way of a right-of-way permit. So far, in the last 2 years, we have, as a city, issued 6 of those permits. 3 of them remain active and current for distributing goods and services within the buffer zones. 2 of those were applied for by churches, 1 from a business person. 3 of those have been previously issued, but they expired. The ordinance states that those permits expire after being good for 1 year. At least 1 of those may have an opportunity to be reissued so that we would have a total of 4 operating permits. Important to note, none of those have been revoked. The ordinance also permits for revocation of those permits. But very importantly, the conversation that begins when somebody reaches out requesting one of these right-of-way permits does involve a deep discussion with our city representatives with regard to best practices, safety, sanitation, cleanup, in order for those providers to be good partners. And so far, I think they have been. Another aspect from the city administration standpoint, or another perspective that I should say, comes from our public works encampment response supervisor, who was specifically referencing the buffer zone around Fred Meyer and some really challenging areas of the city around the 526 pedestrian overpass, as well as around Cascade High School. From the public works encampment response perspective, the buffer zones have been an extremely effective and useful tool in their work in cleaning up some of the areas that were previously needing attention on a daily basis in the wake of the buffer zones. And even to this day, they report that citizens are once again able to cross the bridge without fear of encountering drug use and the accumulation of discarded service provisions and that sort of thing in that area. And the same goes for the area around the Cascade High School, that this buffer zone has been instrumental in their ability to clean that area up. And finally, from our social workers' perspective, turns out the buffer zone ordinance has been a really important touch for individuals who may be referred to services that the city can help guide them through accessing those services. So for example, simply contacting somebody within the buffer zone and saying, you know, hey, you're within this buffer zone. Here's what that means in the city. Can I offer you any goods and services? So it creates an opportunity to have a conversation and maybe get people in touch with those goods and services from the social worker perspective. Moving on to the standpoint from the police department, I will at this point be able to provide you with a little bit of data. So the police calls for service within the buffer zones have largely been very, very hopeful and really encouraging. So with regard to the area and the calls for service around the UCC, those calls for service have had a net decrease since July of 2023 of 45%. Around Andy's Place, which was designated in April of 2024, kind of a net decrease of calls for service of around 18%. Around Fred Meyer, net decrease of around 51% since July of 2023, and around the Children's Museum, which is a very recent designation, just since November of 2024, already a net decrease of 14% calls for service. We cannot attribute this entirely to the buffer zones. As you well know, many of and all of those locations are really dynamic locations within the city, and there's a lot at play. But those numbers are pretty encouraging. When we look at the numbers for police contact, again, the numbers are overwhelmingly supportive that this is being used by police, in addition to our social workers, as a means of education and contact, with the hope of getting people in touch with goods and services that they may be lacking. So since the implementation of the ordinance, police have formally given 156 warnings for buffer zone violations, resulting in just 11 criminal charges. Roughly half of those were only half of those 11 criminal charges were booked into jail. Many of them were booked into jail, not just on violations of the buffer zone ordinance, but for other criminal violations that they were found to have been committing at the same time. For example, trespassing or consumption of controlled substances, in addition to the buffer zone violation. In speaking with our bike unit, who has taken on the lion's share of the education, distributing materials in advance of a buffer zone being implemented, and educating individuals in those areas. They report that it has been a great way for them to be able to talk to individuals and to offer services. They report that for the most part, they are only warning, and they're getting a lot of good contacts, good compliance, good connections with social services when they encounter individuals that way. So they report that it's useful to begin conversations in those areas. And then just before coming down here, I had a conversation with some of our North Patrol leadership who specifically wanted to call out the buffer zone around the Children's Museum as being in the early stages, albeit, but very encouraging as far as the work that police are able to do and the response that they're able to provide to the community. I hadn't thought about it this way, but the geography and the way that the city is built in the area around the Children's Museum with very wide sidewalks, make other enforcement avenues that police may have really non-existent. And so this is a way for officers to engage individuals in this area where otherwise they wouldn't have that tool available. So moving on from the prosecution standpoint, as I said, there were 11 criminal charges that resulted from these. There's a little bit of discrepancy, to be perfectly clear, between the stats that I was able to uncover in the prosecutor's software. I think it's probably user error, so bear with me, versus the police criminal charges. So from what I was able to tell, there have actually been just 7 criminal charges filed. I didn't have an opportunity to uncover where the other 5 went, so that's on my to-do list. Apologies. So I'm going to speak in broad generalities here, but from the data that I was able to pull from the prosecutor's software, roughly half of the criminal charges began as 911 calls, so calls from our community, as opposed to being officer initiated. So far, there have been no convictions for the buffer zone ordinance. Roughly a third of those have been dismissed as part of a comprehensive plea deal or for other regard to the resources that are available, either from the prosecution standpoint or, for example, referral to other services, that sort of thing. About a third have been dismissed because the individual was not competent to stand trial. And the rest are still pending. So they're in negotiations with defense attorneys, or they're trying to engage in another diversion program. At least one of those individuals has affirmatively engaged in a diversion program. So we really like to see that. And in kind of drilling down on some of those incidents, the report from the prosecutor's office bears out what the report from other entities in the city has shown, is that many of those individuals who are facing criminal sanctions for violations of the buffer zone have been offered services many, many times and are pretty intractably services resistant. So we keep trying, but often that's where that ends up. And in fact, one of the people who was charged criminally for a violation of the buffer zone told the officers as he was being cited that he'd be out of jail soon and would continue to violate the buffer zones. So demonstrating the resistance to services that some individuals portray. Finally, and then I'll stop talking at you, at least for the moment, the effectiveness from the community standpoint, and from my perspective, this is the most important. So I want to acknowledge the written statements and the written material that you've been provided from members of our community that are very supportive of continuing on with the buffer zone ordinance. The members of our community have reported to members of our team here that the buffer zones have appreciably contributed to providing a safer and cleaner environment for people accessing and providing services in the area. Ms. Stenning's email on behalf of the Downtown Everett Association, I just want to call this one out because I'll call a couple of them out because I think they're really important to hear. She reported that the ordinance's requirement for a right-of-way use permit has helped reduce unintended consequences from food and supply events such as littering, loitering, while still allowing for meaningful support those in need. The director of Connect Casino Road, Alvaro Guyan, stated, "I want to acknowledge that when buffer zones were first proposed and implemented in Everett, there was some skepticism and opposition within our community. Many of us were concerned about the potential for over-policing, the displacement of individuals in need of services, and the perceived criminalization of simply existing in public spaces. However, the data and our lived experience at our community center have prompted a reassessment. We have observed a notable and welcome decrease in overt illegal activity, particularly in the vicinity of our community center. This area has become more tranquil and accessible to families and children." And then finally, in your inboxes, if you hadn't had an opportunity to review it, John Hull from the Everett Gospel Mission also provided written comment on the efficacy of the buffer zone from his standpoint. And so I encourage you to go and read that. Again, overwhelming support for the continuation of the buffer zones. So to conclude, again, the request is to amend the sunset clause to 2027, noting that our city is dynamic and the problems of 2023 are not the problems of 2025, may not be the problems of 2027, to quote one of our social workers. And to amend the ordinance to provide for the routine reporting from city administration to council annually, and whenever a new buffer zone is created, to provide for greater transparency to elected officials and to the community. I apologize for talking so long, but I'm happy to answer questions or refer you to my esteemed colleagues for questions.
Okay, thank you. Very in-depth. Do we have questions or comments from council? Okay. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Just to thank you for the summary, especially including the feedback and also for the increased focus on visibility and accountability, because unintended consequences is something we're all dealing with all the time, and we're dealing with people and their situations. And so as we see what works, we get to the visibility and accountability will help us keep that tuned up and adapt to the changing needs. So thank you.
Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you for that information. I do appreciate the amendment for annual reporting very much so, and also for the permits. Oh, I appreciate hearing that there were permits given and utilized and not revoked. So that's good to hear. And I have comments. Fighting for the underdog never ends. I tend to get the loudest when those with the softest voice are the ones being legislated against. Buffer zones are legislation used to target our most vulnerable. I will not vote for them and will not agree that they are the right way to deal with societal failure. However, I want to acknowledge what people living and working in the buffer zones have said. For instance, I have the quote that you quoted from Alvaro right here because it's a very good one. So I won't read all of it. I'll read the beginning and the end. When buffer zones were first proposed and implemented in Everett, there was some skepticism. Continuing, this area has become more tranquil and accessible to families and children. I believe the outcome of these buffer zones have visual positive effects, but I still believe that they're the wrong way to deal with a societal problem. We are fortunate that our law enforcement officers are instructed with an emphasis on equity rather than punishment. I see that happening, so I'm shouting you out. There are still some jerks, but we can all be jerks sometimes. But the leadership seems to take human decency as its first approach. So that's another shout out. Even I have seen the decrease in visible illegal activity. However, the need for services is increasing, and the city's ability to incorporate and fund those services and needs is decreasing. We don't have the money, we have more of a need. We're all the underdog at some point. Whether you work in the service industry as wait staff, delivery driver, grocery store clerk, or bus driver, whether you own your own home or rent, you need childcare or after school services. I just want you to know that we're all the underdog sometime, and we need to start working together. And until we work together to have the CEOs and corporate elite pay their fair share of taxes, and then one step further, get those taxes to pay for the people's well-being and not foreign wars and domestic terrorism, we're going to continue to divide ourselves and band-aid social problems. Buffer zones are a band-aid on a puncture wound. I'll have more to say in a couple of weeks, but those are my initial comments on this buffer zone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Thanks. I don't know if you have the numbers handy, but you had mentioned the percent decrease in calls at the 4 different locations. Do you have the number to number? Because sometimes, percent sounds big, but it's, a reduction of like 2 to 1 or something like that. So if you have the straight numbers, that'd be helpful.
I do not have them immediately handy. Sorry. As I was saying, I don't have them immediately handy. Ben may have them handy, or we can provide an update.
Yeah, email is just fine. Yeah, I think one of the original concerns, as Alvaro had mentioned, was that this approach doesn't solve homelessness, it just moves it around. And so context for me is really important. So while we're seeing visual improvements in these zones, we're not seeing that homelessness overall is being solved in Everett. So I'd be curious if, you know, since there are decreases in calls in these areas, does that mean that there's increases elsewhere? Or if there's just some more context to show that this has been successful in just our overall strategic approach to crime and addressing crime in the community, I think would be helpful information to contextualize this effectiveness.
And I'll just be very clear, these are not a tool to solve homelessness, nor were they ever designed to be a tool to solve homelessness. Tools to solve homelessness are creating more shelter and housing for people, as we all know. And this is not one of those tools. This is a tool to solve nuisance crimes that plague areas around hotspots that are typically around service providers, often emergency shelters, often other types of crisis service providers, or, other areas that our police and community development team have said have just shown up on the radar. So just to be very clear, not a tool for that. So none of the data that we share will show that this is helping in that arena. That's not what it's designed to do. It's really a tool to provide our social workers, our police department, that especially our outreach arm of our police department, to engage with a population that is very service resistant, that is typically causing a lot of harm or perceived harm in our community, where we have small businesses that are suffering and struggling. We have residents that are dealing with all kinds of issues in and around their properties. And this is just a tool to help alleviate that. You are absolutely right. It can push those. And there's no way that we can guarantee it's not pushing that into other areas. What we work to do is through emphasis patrols and other efforts to try to mitigate any of those impacts. But I can honestly say that the reports that I'm receiving around this are overwhelmingly positive, that this is absolutely helping the downtown core and the South Everett area and areas that we were getting an extraordinary amount of calls for service. So we'll try to collect that data for you, but just wanted to correct a couple of those thoughts.
I have had a question, and it's more about disbursement. And it could be just maybe there isn't number supported, but at least there's a perception from some of our neighbors, especially around the Forest Park area and the little neighborhood, that some of the homeless population are dispersing into some of the woodsy areas of those neighborhoods. And I was just wondering if you could make a comment about that.
I'm probably not the right person to comment
Yeah.
on that, but perhaps one of our other attendees or we could see if there's some feedback with regard to specifically those neighborhoods and get that to council.
Okay. Okay.
Come on it. Should you press the button if it's not?
We are seeing an increase back into a lot of the woods that we've previously cleared out. A lot of it's private property locations. My team just recently, the woods down by the closed Walmart, we encountered roughly about 25, 30 people living in them. And we were working with admin sergeant, social services, and the property owner to go in there and try to get that cleaned up. As far as Lowell goes, we haven't been down there recently. I know that there are camps in there. And there's camps that go far back in both directions, all along the water, and then further along to the south. It's tracking them down and getting hold of the property owners. Sometimes can be pretty challenging. But I wouldn't say that this is a buffer zone. These camps have been there for long as I've been a cop. Oh, sorry, 18 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Any other questions? Okay, and we'll have two more meetings to have comments and questions on this particular resolution. So, all right, so we'll move. Thank you very much. Was there more on this particular item as far as reporting or presentation? Okay. All right. So we ready to move on to item 9, 10, 11. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. All right, so we have proposed action items 9, 10, 11. They've all been read into the record. Does council have any questions or comments of any of these three items? Councilmember Vogely.
Very quickly, since I wasn't here at the first reading, hooray for Walter E. Hall Park Community Connections Path to be moving forward. Woohoo, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments? Okay, the final reading for all three of these ordinance would be on October 15th. All right, we'll move on to action item number 12, Council Bill 2508-49, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance relating to indigent defense standards, amending EMC 2.108.390. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And a second. So any questions or comments from council? Okay, seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, moving to item number 13, briefing and a resolution. Adopt a resolution establishing prohibited area related to areas of drug trafficking. Jennifer, could you kind of,
I told her it wouldn't be too long.
okay, she's back. All right.
Lacey wanted to sit down. Anyways, Lacey offered us back to provide a briefing on this item.
Okay, let me get connected again.
Okay, and just for clarification, we can call for action at this meeting.
We had scheduled this for action in 2 weeks.
Okay, in 2 weeks.
Because I think staff saw that these topics are somewhat intertwined and sometimes on resolutions where we think you might have questions or there are policy questions, we do a briefing and then ask for action at a later meeting. So
Okay.
that's what we did for this one.
Okay, so we don't need the 3 readings.
We don't need 3 readings. It's just like briefing and action, but we
Okay.
just.
So I'll
held the action for-
support that we consider this on the 22nd then.
That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again. Angela, could I get access? I have a very few number of slides on this presentation. You all may recall that we were here in June talking about soda orders, and here we are again, having taken some time to review one of the areas within the city that there were specific questions about. We've updated some of the data and at this time are prepared to recommend one additional area of for inclusion into the soda ordinance or the soda zones. So let me pull this up. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. Just to talk through this particular area, which is along Colby from Pacific to the 3600 block.
Excuse me, if you wouldn't mind backtracking, just for those who might be watching, to give just a little briefing on what a soda is. And
Sure, of course.
Thank you.
Soda zones within the city of Everett are addressed every 2 years by council per Everett Municipal Code 1013. What they do is they designate in advance areas of the city that are known to be high volume for drug trafficking related offenses. Once designated as a soda zone, those zones are used by prosecutors in the Everett Municipal Court and our police department to assist in reducing the amount of drug trafficking, and by way of both creating a new violation for a violation of a soda order that is imposed by a municipal court, as well as a probation condition for people who are convicted of
And
certain.
Lacey, just to go back to the
crimes.
very basics, SOTA stands for Stay Out of Drug Area.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Stay out of drug areas.
We may have new viewers. And
Understood,
Yeah.
understood. And I need to remember that as well. So thank you for bringing me back to the basics. I skipped ahead because we just were before this body very recently. And the council considered a lot of information on a lot of the various SOTA zones. But there were additional questions with regard to this area of our city. So getting back to this particular area of the city on Colby Avenue from Pacific all the way south to the 3600 block. What I've got for you is an overview of the data to support including this into the already designated SOTA zones moving forward from hopeful adoption of the resolution. So what we've got on this first slide is the substance use abuse calls for service in this location. And this is from September 2023 to September 2025. You can see those blue calls representing the volume of calls for service for substance abuse specifically. The following slide is drug and narcotic arrests for that same area of the city for that same time frame, representing 66 drug or narcotic arrests. And importantly, this does not include arrests or violations of a SOTA zone because this hasn't been previously designated as a SOTA area. And this next slide represents the overdose data for this location of the city, representing a number of instances in which individuals were treated for suspected overdoses in that area, just in that time frame. And the final slide I have for you tonight shows the SOTA violations for the entire north sector of the city. And again, I want to point out that there are no blue dots in this area because it is not presently a SOTA area. So you can see though what enforcement looks like throughout the rest of North Everett. So it is our recommendation based on this more updated data that this area on Colby extending from Pacific to 3600 block and 2 blocks east and west of that area be an additional area for the SOTA resolution. I have with me, you already spoke with him, Sergeant Wallace, who is happy to answer questions about his experience in this area in support of including this in our SOTA areas.
Thank you. Council members have questions? Councilmember Ryan.
Thanks. Why not have the east boundary marry up with why have a gap between the two?
If you look kind of more closely at some of the data, the far boundary doesn't represent a whole host of additional violations. We like to keep the SOTA areas consistent in how they're framed and understood as well. So it's simpler for enforcement. It's simpler for people who are subject to them to understand. So if you look at all of them, they have that 2 blocks east and west. And so we always want to be cognizant of kind of over adding too much area into the SOTA zones as well, particularly when the data doesn't support it.
So one street between this proposed zone and the existing and an existing zone won't be covered.
That's right.
And that's not seen as problematic.
I don't personally see it as problematic, kind of seeing how these have operated. I can understand how it would be confusing to somebody trying to understand the boundaries of these. But again, we try to be very cognizant of over including areas into the SOTA boundaries. So we try to keep it consistent.
Because the other two that were added on the that other map that shows kind of like a T and those abut. So to me, it doesn't make sense to have a gap. That's my input.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Zarlingo.
I guess I want to make sure I understand the background of this because I think there are assumptions about the effect of the soda zone, but at least set me straight on this, you, the police. As I understand it, some of the people with substance abuse problems, it is suspected that if they hang around in areas where there are other people with substance abuse problems, that increases the likelihood that their substance abuse will persist or be harder for us to deal with. And that especially, I guess, as a condition for release, probation, whatever it is, maybe release on bail, having people stay out of these areas where they might otherwise be tempted to go back to their previous habits is the benefit of the soda zone. So have I got that right?
You do.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Vogely.
Where's Compass Health located on this map?
Oh, goodness.
Is it within the new? Is it within the old? Is it within the gap?
Oh, I see. It is within the very long north-south, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, so they're already. Okay, okay. Just wanted to check on that.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm sorry, Councilmember Bader.
Let's see, let's see, I'm not sure which slide this is. A map that looked like the last one you just had up, but had, I think, maybe all. Let's see here. Sorry, I didn't print off the slide number.
This one.
Yeah, it's actually
Yeah.
the one that looks like that, but also has other dots outside it.
Oh, from the previous. Yeah, that.
Nope. There's one in our packet, I think, that had proposed.
This one.
Nope. There's, so anyhow, there's one that had, at least in our packet, that I put in
Has other dots.
additional. And I was wondering what that map showed. What were the dots showing on that map?
Oh, yes, in your materials, I apologize because I got a couple of different iterations of this slide, but in your materials, the final slide, I believe is showing calls for service for substance abuse and arrest. I can clarify that because it's not titled, but so I think what that is showing is the blue dots that would have shown in the first slide, substance abuse calls for service, as well as drug and narcotic arrests, but in the context of the whole north of the city.
Okay, yeah, if you, when you share that data, if you could explain or include what time period that covers for that one as well. Just what had me interested in, or even more interested in that was at a recent Riverside neighborhood meeting, a fair number, I'll probably say about half a dozen residents spoke about concerns they now have on that corridor just north of Everett Avenue between just north of Everett Avenue on the east, right, Cedar area there with the recent hot meal and day shelter issues. So I just wanted to voice the concerns that were raised there and concerned that that might be an evolving hotspot to look at. But the data, if you could provide that data, that might be helpful to put that in context.
Yeah, I'm happy to update that
Okay.
slide. My
But
apologies.
I certainly do understand the need for consistency or simplicity in terms of helping it be understandable too. But I just wanted to mention that that had come up at a recent neighborhood meeting there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Vogel, did you have anything more to add? I
I appreciate
yeah,
you checking.
Yeah.
I'll save it.
Okay.
Because I don't know what it is yet.
Okay, we'll have a couple more meetings on this too. I had a one question about a suspect that gets arrested for dealing drugs in these zones. Are they told that there is an additional penalty if they go back and have cohabitate in these areas?
So typically if somebody is arrested for dealing drugs, that would be a felony offense and they would not be subject to a SOTA order. Somebody who is, unless of course it gets declined to us, but the using controlled substances crimes are typically the ones that result in a SOTA order. And yes, they are given many, many opportunities to understand the constraints around having one of these orders.
Okay. Thank you. Nope. You'd mentioned that, are there several felony cases that may be reduced and sent down to our prosecutor's office?
Very common, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Is there any more on this? Okay, thank you. Well, that's our last agenda item. And so with no further action to follow, the meeting's adjourned.